Hello, I'm Janna and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today we're going to be kicking off our Valentine's Day series with some rosettes. I love the From the Vault rosettes and we're going to make some Valentine's Day themed ones. If you'd like to see exactly which supplies we're going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner.
Today is our first day of our Valentine's Day series, and I had to start things off with the From the Vault Sizzix Rosette die. I love this one and it's so versatile. You probably know that we used it at Christmas, and why not at Valentine's Day as well? So let's dive right in. I've already pre-cut my pieces using some of the Tim Holtz Ideology backdrops and some of the Warm Tones craft stock. Now, we're going to be making a set of 4 rosettes today, and these are some of the papers that we're going to be using. We've got some lovely red, some pink, and of course the craft stock. So what we're going to do is a very simple fan fold. And the paper is already pre-creased, which is really cool about the rosette die. Now, we're just going to take our fingers, and I like to work kind of in the air, press and fold, just using my fingertips to get that beautiful accordion fold going. You definitely could do things other ways. Some people like to use an acrylic block and use that to help line up your folds, but I've just found this one works easier for me. And mid-air crafting is kind of what we do when working on film. So there we go. We've already got our first panel nicely folded. And I am loving the double-sided paper. Definitely makes things a lot more interesting. We've got a beautiful pattern to work with here. For the rosette that we're making today, I decided to do 3 chunks. 3 seems to be the perfect amount to work with when creating these rosettes. You can definitely add more pieces to make larger rosettes, but this has been the size that I have greatly enjoyed using for card fronts, and that's usually been a 5.5 by 4.25 inches for cards. So we're just going to do the smaller one today, and we'll have lots of fun decorating. I've got all sorts of embellishments and die cuts off to the side that we'll dive into once we've assembled all of our bases. So in the meantime, under over on our fold. And if you notice, we've got one piece that has a little tab on it, which is going to be important when we start assembling the pieces. Now, for assembly, I'm going to be bringing in the Sure Bonder hot glue gun, absolutely my favorite. No cord, very easy to use, heats up pretty quickly. Now, we're going to put the glue on the piece that has the little tab, and I'm going to put it on the top. Now, one thing while making this, you kind of want to double check which side you're going to be having as your face up, because I like to tuck the glue on the underside. And I'll take my 2 pieces, kind of smush them together, move the glue around, and then press the 2 pieces together to join that seam, hopefully seamlessly. So there we go. That's one. Now we will move over to the second one. And we're just going to run a very thin line of glue along here. You definitely could use collage medium, but I find that takes a lot longer. The hot glue is a quick and easy way to put these together, and I've never had any trouble with these coming apart. So hot glue is my go-to for the rosettes. So we got those 2, push them together, smush that down, and just give it a little bit of a fold to put everything back together, looking nice and even. All right. And now we're going to join our 3 sections together. A little bit of glue on that last tab. And this time we're going to close things up, making a circle. So just lining the edges up, carefully putting that together, giving it a little smush to hold things in place. And I'll try to wipe away that little extra glue ooze. There we go. So that is the base of our rosette. Now comes the really cool part. If you notice, one side is going to have some rounded edges and the other side is going to be flatter. I like to push the flat edge into the center, kind of like we're smushing down a tent. And we've got all that lovely folding going on. And now we can take our hot glue and we're going to glue this all together. It's a little tricky because that entire circle kind of wants to pop up, but not a big deal. We can use our fingers and keep things pressed. Now I have some 1-inch circles here that I'm using as my center. That will also hold the rest of the rosette in place, letting the glue spread evenly behind the circle. Okay, so there is our first rosette, and that is looking pretty good. So the only thing I'm going to do now is add a piece of foam or two to the back so that these can be easily stuck down onto other projects. So I decided to go with 4 pieces. It's a pretty big rosette, so I might need a little extra foam to help it stick everything in place. All right, so there is our first base. Let's put the rest on fast forward as we make the other rosettes. Here are our completed rosettes. These are gorgeous. I love the colors. Now it's time to add a little bit of distress to them. We're going to be taking the Distress Vintage Photo ink and we're going to be going around the edges just to add a little bit of vintage vibe. Of course, I'm using one of my mini blenders and we've got some dome foam on here. So we're going to be running the ink over the tops of that accordion fold and along the edges of the rosette, just to add a little bit more interest. And of course, Vintage Photo is always going to be my go-to ink in the distress world. So just lightly running this over the edges, not really pushing down too hard. We've loaded up the blending foam with plenty of ink, and we're just kind of adding like little bits of highlight, just little touches of grunge. Okay. That is working out very, very nicely. And our last one. So reload the ink and work our way around. And I'm just giving the rosette a little twist with my fingers so that I can get all of the parts nice and even. All right. So we've added a little bit of distress ink to our rosettes. Now it is time to decorate them. And I'm very excited about this because I've been die cutting all sorts of parts and pieces. All right, so for starters, I die cut a bunch of hearts using falling hearts, and I've used the background for another project. But we were left with all of these beautiful hearts that are just going to be perfect to add to these rosettes. I also pulled in the Big Sty Heartfelt. This has such a great variety and different sizes of hearts. So I was able to cut up a bunch of backgrounds and we've got all sorts of lovely hearts to play with. Lots of fun. Now, this is another find. And if you watched a previous video, you saw this in a die haul. This is the Valentine's Day Stacked Word Strip Die. It's discontinued, but it's very, very cool and has all sorts of fun pieces that we'll be able to incorporate onto the rosettes. Now, just a word of warning, if you're going to use that particular die or go hunting for it, it requires a special set of die cutting plates just because of its length, but it runs perfectly through the switch. All right, let's start building. So in a previous short, we stamped a bunch of sentiments using note quotes. And we're going to be using those as some focal points today to pair with all of the hearts that I've die cut from a whole variety of substrates. We've got inky backgrounds, sprayed backgrounds, we've got spritz, we've got all sorts of papers. And this has been a really good time to use up some of my paper scraps. And here are some of the pieces die cut from the Stacked Words Valentine's Day die set as well. Now, the 14 is really, really cool because you can separate it into 2 parts. And if you die cut with a second color, you can stack the numbers together to get a really cool effect. And I did just that using some metallic cardstock. All right, before we get into that, let's go ahead and glue down the pieces that we have and we can start building kind of a collage. So fun. I typically don't play with a lot of pink and red during the year, but for Valentine's Day, that's the exact right time to bring out those colors. And I do love how many different varieties of color we have in the world of distress. We've got, say, picked raspberry, barn door, lumberjack plaid, candied apple, kitsch flamingo, sponge sugar. The list goes on and on. So many good colors. And then we have all of the beautiful textures and paper patterns from Ideology. I love bringing all these elements together to create these pieces. All right, so now we're getting into that 14. So there's our base layer using some warm color craft stock. Now, I did cut some more of those numbers using some patterned paper. We've got this really cool pink marbled piece here, and we're going to layer that in to that solid frame. So just lining that up, a bit of collage medium, sticking that down, fits right in, and we'll be able to do the same with the number 1. Also, I noticed there's like a teeny itty bitty piece in the number 4, that little open triangle, which also can fit another piece. I love little details like that. It just adds so much more to a die cut. And die cuts, I'll say it again, they are so versatile and you can really use them for anything and everything. Okay, we've got our number 14 and we have our first decorated rosette, but I'm kind of thinking I want to add a little bit more. We've got all sorts of tiny hearts, and I did happen to die cut some very glittery golden paper. So I think we're going to add some of those sparkling hearts in as well. We're just going to grab a few and gently place them down, and that will just add a nice finishing touch to the rosette. Okay. There we go. Just add a few more. And then we'll see where we go from there. I love the rosettes. They are just a great substrate to build on. The foundational pieces in Sizzix are really fun. And the nice thing is you can change your pattern of paper, and that allows you to transition that same die cut, that same base into a whole bunch of different seasons. I can't wait to do a few more of these for Halloween in the coming spooky season. Okay, that is pretty good. I like it. Now, I do want to finish this off with a bit of sparkle. And of course, we're going to be bringing in some distress glitter. So we're just going to take that collage medium and run a relatively thin line around the edge. And then we'll get the sparkle going and add that glitter. Okay. So we've got our glue. Now I will need to find some scrap paper to catch all that extra glitter. And I think we're just going to dump the glitter right on here. It's a rather odd shape, so it's kind of hard to have finesse with the glitter. It's okay. We can just dump it out, and then I can always scoop that extra glitter right back into the jar. And I love having this giant jar of glitter. Very convenient for just pouring. All right, so we've got our glitter. We'll give that a good tap, make sure that everything is set, and we can put this aside to dry. All right, we're just going to scoop that glitter using our scrap paper, dump that right back into the bottle, and we'll be good to use that another time. All right, putting that lid right back on. We don't want to have a glitter catastrophe. Now, let's go ahead and start decorating some more of the rosettes. Let's see what we've got. We've got so many different pieces to play with. I barely know where to start. Let's pull in some more elements from the stacked Valentine's Day die set. We've got a XO right here. We've got some more hearts. I'm just kind of doing a layout before I decide where all the pieces are going to go. I like to just kind of play with the die cuts and try different arrangements just to figure out where I want to place things. And then I'll commit to the final placement with some glue after I kind of know what I'm doing. Just moving things around and playing is half the fun for me to creating all of these different elements that I can then later use on cards. All right, so we're just going to take the hearts. I like the placement. We're going to stick them right down. And now let's take that XO and we'll add that as well. So don't need to go too heavy-handed with the glue, just enough to make sure everything sticks. All right. Let's see here. Now I think I want to add some smaller pieces. Oh, got to go back and use more of the little glittered hearts. They are fun, and the falling hearts die just cut so many of them out. When I have dies like that you're going to have lots of little pieces left over, if I know I'm going to use them, I will just stick them into a little dish and keep them off to the side so I can use them on other projects. And these little glitter hearts were definitely worth saving. So we'll just continue to place them on here. Probably going to do about 7 or 8 of these. Why not? They're cute and they really do add that nice touch of sparkle to this. So for all of the papers that I've been using my stash of the Ideology Tim Holtz backgrounds, and we've got close to 6 different packs of paper. I've been pulling from some of the everyday sets as well as the Christmas sets because the Christmas sets have some really good red papers in there. So don't always think about your paper packs being limited to a specific season. Grab from all the seasons and use what works in the moment that you're making. Okay, so that would be our second rosette. Let's go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward as we build the other 2. Let's take a look at our completed rosettes. And we've got so much beautiful sparkle on there. And I was even able to use a little bit of the falling hearts in the background, the positive to the negative. So here's our other one that has the 14 on it. We did the inverse with the numbers and the paper. I am very happy with the way these have turned out. There's lots of sparkle, lots of color, and we've used a whole bunch of different mediums. And those little sparkle hearts seem to have worked their way pretty much everywhere on the rosettes. Very happy with these. I love the glitter. I love the texture. Rosettes are so versatile, and I will definitely be playing with these for many seasons to come. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for part 1 of our Valentine's Day making series. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video featuring the Tim Holtz from the Vault rosettes and a few blasts from the past. Until next time, happy crafting.